An emergency broadcast suddenly cuts through every TV channel, announcing the emergence of a terrifying new virus detected at an airport. Those infected become dangerously aggressive, and within hours the entire airport is engulfed in flames. 2 months later, the virus has swept across the globe, becoming a full-blown worldwide pandemic. It transforms its victims into savage, feral creatures, wild, rage-fueled beings known simply as ferals. The government scrambles to establish quarantine zones, but large segments of the population push back hard, taking to the streets to defend the rights of the infected, insisting they're still human. The military is deployed to clear civilians from the roads, but the crackdown only deepens the chaos. One afternoon, every TV signal goes dark at once. Abigail and her brother receive a call from their father, a pilot, who assures them he's doing everything he can to help people and that they'll be safe with their mother. Moments later, a noise from upstairs sends the family rushing outside. Just as they're about to get into the car, a feral leaps out and brutally attacks their mother. Abigail dives under the vehicle and watches in horror as the creature goes after her brother too, until nearby police sirens send it fleeing. Then she hears her brother calling out to her. But her mother, now turning, finishes him off. Abigail's cries give away her position and the infected woman closes in, until Seus fires a shot, taking her down. He pulls Abigail to safety, and she throws her arms around him in relief. When her brother begins to turn as well, Seus tells her to close her eyes before pulling the trigger. 10 years later, the world is unrecognizable. Humanity has been reduced to scattered survivors, and nature has reclaimed the crumbling cities. Deep in the forest, Abigail, now a teenager, and Seus are out hunting. It's clear he's shaped her into a capable survivor. She drops a deer with a single clean shot. Still, he scolds her for acting too quickly, reminding her that patience keeps you alive. At nightfall, they make camp and Seus checks every trap before turning in. Hours later, a triggered wire jolts him awake. He steps outside to investigate, finds animal fur snagged on the line, and then, movement. He rushes to calm the horses and draws his weapon just in time to gun down an incoming feral. Likely a scout for the horde. He wakes Abigail immediately. They need to move. Over the following days, the two keep traveling, training during every rest stop. One afternoon, they spot an abandoned car and raise their weapons. A man is firing at a feral nearby, unaware of another creature creeping up behind him. Abigail wants to help, but fires too fast, hitting the man along with the feral. The creature inside the car emerges to feed, and Seus puts it down. Abigail searches the wreck for supplies while Seus, grimly practical, finishes off the wounded man with a machete and takes his boots. A radio inside crackles, someone trying to reach the driver. Abigail wants to warn them about the feral horde in the area. Seus tells her to leave it. Then more vehicles roll in. A group of survivors surrounds them at gunpoint. They find the body and quickly conclude that the duo killed him for his supplies. When their leader threatens to execute them, Seus and Abigail disarm the two nearest people in a flash. A standoff forms, until a pregnant woman named Megan steps out of one of the vehicles, trying to defuse things. At that exact moment, the horses begin to panic. A massive horde erupts from the tree line on all sides. Everyone opens fire. The ferals keep coming, dozens of them, closing fast. Seus and Abigail switch to blades, fighting hand-to-hand when the distance collapses. The other survivors, unfamiliar with melee combat, begin falling one by one. A woman reaching for a Molotov cocktail gets struck, dropping it onto a car. The explosion hurls Seus backward. One survivor is bitten and out of ammo, turns before anyone can act. The group's leader is seized by a massive feral and beaten to death. Megan's husband, David, narrowly fights off an attacker. Abigail helps the couple into a car. Seus cuts down a few more ferals before piling in. As they peel out, a feral is clinging to the roof. Seus slams the brakes and it flies off. Abigail grabs the last of her gear as they finally break free. The giant feral watches them escape, letting out a thunderous roar as it finds its mate among the dead. On the road, Abigail counts the ammunition, nearly gone. Megan explains they were heading to a colony on the riverbank. She's 35 weeks pregnant, the baby coming soon. Seus and Abigail are skeptical. They've seen too many colonies fall apart. Then the engine dies. With no other option, the group continues on foot into an abandoned town to spend the night. They sweep a building for ferals and set up camp. Megan offers food, but Seus and Abigail stick to what they hunt, too risky otherwise. The couple explains they've been in radio contact with the colony. Supplies, doctors, safety. A week's journey away. High risk. In return, Abigail shares their own goal, reaching the west coast to escape by boat to the islands. After setting traps outside, Siyu spreads out a map and shows the couple the route to the colony, but refuses to go. The Horde will retaliate. He and Abigail argue about it in private. She pushes him to help, believes this colony might be different. He won't budge. In the middle of the night, the Horde tracks the broken-down car to the town. Meanwhile, the men lie awake, unable to sleep. Siyu shows David the single bullet he always keeps in his pocket, for the worst case. David has one cigarette and a twisted ankle. They talk. Something passes between them. By morning, Siyu agrees to escort the couple to the colony. At dawn, Abigail hears something below and goes to check. A feral ambushes her and knocks away her weapon. She kills it with her machete before a second one gives chase up the stairwell. She throws it out through a broken window, nearly going over herself. Siyu catches her just in time. By the time the Horde reaches the building, the group is already gone. One feral trips the rigged trap, a small explosion, one less creature. Later, Abigail recognizes the landscape. There's a regional airport nearby where her father kept a small plane. Siyu is against it. Airports are easy terrain for the Horde to trap them, and there's likely nothing left worth finding. But Abigail and the couple outvote him. He follows. Along the way they pass an old building and a car with a recently shot man inside. Siyu tells Abigail to search the building for supplies but pushes on, convinced they're being watched. She finds only some coffee, missing entirely a family hiding in one of the back rooms. Siyu pops the trunk and finds a wheelchair, which they use to carry Megan. After they leave, the Horde descends on the building. The family doesn't last seconds. At the airport, no planes in sight. David and Siyu begin to argue about next steps, but Abigail cuts them off. She's found her father's private hangar. And inside it, a plane. David has just enough mechanical knowledge to get to work on it. While he does, Siyu and Abigail sweep the terminal. Abigail finds a photo of herself with her dad on the floor. She picks it up and pins it back on the wall. Then the Horde arrives. Everyone runs for the plane. Siyu lays down suppressing fire as David cranks the propeller by hand to get the engine turning. Abigail's flying knowledge is limited, and the plane is slow to accelerate. The Horde closes in. She finds the right controls and the aircraft lurches forward, picking up speed. A feral grabs hold of the door. Siyu shoots it loose. The plane lifts off. They're free, for about 2 minutes. Then the engine begins to sputter. Abigail fights to bring it down in one piece. They land safely. Siyu checks the map. 2 days to the colony on foot. They'll rest here and leave at first light. That night, Abigail counts what's left of their ammo. Not much. Megan and Siyu share food and he opens up for the first time. She reminds him of his wife. He had to kill her family when they were infected. She took her own life afterward, unable to carry the grief. He also tells the story of a boy from his hometown who was bitten. The wound missed the artery, so the transformation was slow, drawn out over days. Meanwhile, David slips away and finds a private corner to check his ankle. In the mirror he sees the truth. The infection is spreading. He takes out his gun. His hand shakes. He can't do it. The next morning, the group walks under a blazing sun. David is visibly deteriorating. When the women are far enough ahead, Siyu pulls him aside and checks the wound himself. He gives David a choice: tell them the truth, on his own terms. If he doesn't, Siyu will handle it himself. Late in the day, they spot a house with lights on. A voice challenges them from inside. Siyu reads danger. Abigail steps forward anyway, explains their situation. A pregnant woman, no threat. Norton opens the door, covering them with a rifle, and asks them to leave their weapons in a chest outside. Then he welcomes them in with surprising warmth. The house has electricity. Norton's an engineer, built his own power and water systems. He mentions a wife but deflects when Megan asks about her. He shares bread and vegetables. Abigail is thrilled just to take a hot shower. Siyu finally gets his laptop working and spends time looking at old photos. His wife, visibly pregnant before the pandemic. Later, he checks on Megan, who admits she's frightened. The baby hasn't moved since they arrived. She makes him promise that if something happens to her, he'll protect her child. Over drinks, Norton holds court. He's lived here 20 years. He knows about the colony but has no interest in joining. He prefers solitude. He grows increasingly intense, ranting about humanity's obsession with rebuilding the old world. He says civilization deserved what happened to it, that it destroyed the planet and abandoned its values. The virus, he argues, was just evolution. Only the strong remain. Seus notices an unusual knife on the table. Norton snatches it before he can get a closer look. David retreats to the bathroom, sick and worsening. He stares at his reflection, watching the infection creep further. When he comes back out, everyone else is unconscious. Norton drugged the drinks. He's now in a lab coat, holding a strange device. He clocks David's infection immediately and activates the machine. It emits a high-pitched frequency, like a dog whistle, and David collapses in agony. Norton explains the device only affects the infected. David passes out before he can respond. The Horde, meanwhile, discovers a train station and continues its hunt. David wakes in the basement. The whole group is bound. Norton is at a workbench taking notes, clinical and methodical. He reveals that his wife, infected, is locked in a cage. He releases her and uses the device to direct her. She advances on the group. Seus and Abigail kick and fight to hold her back. She lunges at David instead. He works free of his restraints and wrestles her down, but Norton turns the device on him. Still not fully turned, David forces through the pain and manages to free the others. Seus finds a weapon and fires. Norton bolts upstairs. The group charges after him and barricades the door. Norton hacks through it with an axe. Abigail snatches his car keys. Seus grabs their gear. Before they can reach the car, Seus spins and cold-cocks David. He wants to finish it here. The women convince him to wait. As they load into the car, Megan realizes her water has broken. Norton watches them go. His infected wife growls behind him. The Horde finds them on the forest road. Lights appear ahead. The colony. They floor it, but a fallen tree blocks the way. On foot now, with the Horde closing in, they fire everything they have left. David runs dry. He knows what's coming. He asks them to go ahead. He'll buy them time. The couple says goodbye. Seus hands him the spare bullet before walking away. When they're far enough, David lights his cigarette and turns to face the ferals with nothing but his hands. He fights hard. The giant feral finds him anyway, snaps his neck. The rest of the Horde keeps pushing toward the survivors. Abigail opens fire to cover Seus, who carries Megan. She screams for help. Colony guards respond, cutting down the ferals closing in. The rest of the Horde sees the bodies and the floodlights, and retreats into the woods. The group is allowed inside. Megan is rushed to the infirmary where a midwife takes over. The next morning, after meeting the colony's leader, Seus tells Abigail they should leave soon. He doesn't trust people. She's exhausted from running and ignores him. He visits the midwife. The baby is fine, but Megan has only a few hours left. He goes to her. The baby is a girl. Hope. Megan reminds him of his promise and presses her family's locket into his hands. Then she's gone. Elsewhere, Norton has reached the forest. He finds the Horde among the bodies of their fallen. He spots the colony in the distance. When the ferals turn on him, he activates his device and brings them to heel. Time for revenge, he announces. Back at the colony, Seus cradles hope, weighing their options. Abigail drifts toward the local teenagers and ends up at a small gathering that night. Drinks go around, and 2 guards nod off at their posts. A few teenagers slip into a restricted area. Abigail follows and finds a strange remote control. When she reaches for it, Roderick stops her. He explains, the entire floating settlement is wired with explosives. The remote is the dead man's switch. If ferals breach the colony, everyone uses an escape hatch beneath it, leading to an old dam, and then the whole place goes up. Morning. Norton spots a patrol boat and calls for help. He eliminates the guard. A feral leaps aboard and kills the second soldier, and the way is clear. Norton releases the Horde into the colony. Survivors fall everywhere. A handful of armed residents push back. Abigail pulls Roderick away from a feral and starts organizing the teenagers. Anyone armed gets to high ground to fire from above. Roderick leads the civilians toward the dam. Abigail goes after Seus. The midwife takes hope so Seus can search for Abigail. The colony's leader tries to run. A feral drops him in an instant. Seus stabs another to save 2 teenage boys. Then they find each other, falling into a rhythm. Gunshots and blades, covering each other, moving as one. When a gap opens, they push toward the evacuation hatch. Then Seus spots Norton. He hesitates. A feral catches him off guard and he goes down. He drives a blade into it, but Norton is on him, kicking, lecturing about building a safer world. After a brutal exchange, Seus gets upright, drives Norton into a wall, and slams the device against it again and again, until it shatters. He runs back to Abigail. With the device destroyed, The feral swarm Norton. He doesn't survive. The survivors stream through the tunnel to the dam. But Roderick can't bring himself to blow the charges. Abigail isn't out yet. Inside, the giant feral corners Abigail. Seus hits it with an oar. When it crashes to the ground, Abigail sees something on its wrist, a bracelet. Her father's bracelet. The realization stuns her completely. Seus grabs her hand and drags her toward the hatch. They plunge into the tunnel. Roderick, finally, detonates the explosives. The colony erupts. Every feral inside is obliterated. On the other side at the dam, the survivors catch their breath, until they realize one of them is infected. Seus tries to de-escalate. A feral drops from nowhere and kills the man before anyone can react. It turns on Seus. They crash and grapple across the ground, the creature's teeth inches from his throat. This time, Abigail waits. She breathes. She finds her moment, and fires. Clean shot. Seus is unharmed. The survivors stand together, watching the colony burn in the distance. "We can build something new," Abigail says. "Right here at the dam." Seus reaches into his pack and pulls out a notebook, Norton's. Inside, step-by-step instructions for building a generator. That's it for Silent Zone, the 2025 action horror film. Hope you enjoyed the recap. See you in the next one.